Now, by merging the real world and the virtual world through the concept of digital twins, the Web3 Metaverse offers incredible potential for global reach. Now, for anyone who may not be familiar with the concept of digital twins, don't worry, because by my own admission, I had absolutely no idea what it was, and I had to look it up myself. But what it boils down to is this: a digital representation of a physical object, person, or even process that helps to simulate real situations and their possible outcomes. So for example, physical boundaries may not even be an issue any longer by creating virtual replicas of objects, products, or even places. Now that said, there are golden opportunities for companies to monetize digital twins, and our next panelists are going to explain just how you do that. So please give it up, a very warm welcome for our next chat, Mike Glear, CEO and founder of Zelti, Robert Rice, CEO of Transmira, Elias Zamora Silvero, Sevilla FC, and Ray de Luis Baez, founder and chief connections builder at The Connect, your moderator for this global reach monetization with Web3 Metaverse digital twins. An eye-opening chat brought to you by both Zelti and Transmira. Ray de, the floor is yours.
Thank you to all of you that came back from lunch for this fascinating talk. So I really appreciate it. And we promise that we won't bore you with more technicalities. But the topic today is very interesting because, as probably you all know, we come from two bad years of bad rep for anything around Web3. But the interesting thing is that digital twins and what recently has been coined Metaverse has been around for decades already. And we have some of the pioneers in that industry here with us today. So actually, and to be able to pick off on Sembra's comment in terms of what is a digital twin, what I wanted to throw, the first question actually for our panelists is actually to be able to define with not much of a technical jargon, but actually in terms of practicality, what a digital twin is, and more especially what it could be used for, because there are many applications. So that's the first question, and probably we can start with Michal to actually be able to define his own view, his company experience.
No, I would love to share this question to Robert. He's the industry giant. He's the inventor of the digital twin metaverse. So Robert, go for it.
I'll go for it then.
All righty.
So I'm pretty sure everybody here is familiar with the term metaverse, and you've seen virtual worlds like Decentraland or Sandbox or Second Life and those sort of things. So those are what we would call created or fictional worlds. They take place somewhere else, and there's no real tie or link back to the real world. It's fun, it's interesting, and it's kind of cool, but it lacks a lot of utility, it lacks context, it lacks relevance, and it's really hard trying to do things in those sort of fictional environments that have a practical real-world application. So we've come up with a different approach, what we call digital twins, where we create a one-to-one copy or simulation of the real world, like this, the event hall, a stadium, an arena, a mall, or whatever, any kind of those buildings are. So it's full 3D, it's fully interactive, and it's to scale, and it's mostly photorealistic, so you feel like you're actually there moving around and exploring it. And when we have a digital twin of a building or a facility, and then we place that in the context of a larger city or an area, so I can go visit Sevilla, I can visit London, I can visit New York City or whatever, that starts to create kind of a basic platform where we can start tying in local businesses, we can tie into things that have cultural impact or whatever, so these become way more real and interesting to people, and then we can start layering in things for monetization and commerce and engagement and marketing that you can't quite do if you're just doing some type of minimal presence in a fictional, sort of a cartoony environment.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, and you mentioned something that is key, I guess, and I'll yield to Elias to actually be able to explain the reality of day-to-day football organization or sports property operation, which is the monetization component. So any investment, theoretically, needs to be attached to a return on that investment. Technology usually, in sports, it's not top of the priority, I would say, when you talk about investments, but how do you make sure that from the design process, you as an organization like Sevilla, which is actually at the forefront of digital transformation, can make sure that a digital twin investment can be properly used and monetized?
Yep. So I think that to give you a little bit of context, how the football industry has evolved in terms of technology or in terms of data collection in the last, let us say, 10, 15 years. And it was very important from the very beginning, the generation of content. So it has everything began through the generation of content. So you generate a lot of content, you generate a lot of content. In a given moment, it was very important that the people react to the content. So to generate engagement. Okay, you generate engagement for the sake of engagement. This was the problem. And then the next step was to identify who is generating the engagement. And just a priori for the sake of identification, because the technology and the impact of the technology, apart from the technology in the game, but also the technology in the game, was measured indirectly. The impact of technology was always in sport or in football, indirect. So, for example, in Sevilla FC, we are doing many things about in scouting, technology in scouting. So you just hope that the guys that you have scouted through data perform well and help to win. You cannot measure how much they help. You just hope that they help indirectly. Or the engagement, you just create numbers. For example, how many people you have in social media, what is the engagement. Then Nielsen, for example, gives some kind of measurements of how important are you, what is your reach, and you try and you hope that these numbers, both in the terms of how many people you have in your database, how many people you have in social media, what is the engagement of them, that they generate some kind of impact in your sponsors. So the more people you have in your databases, the more people you have around you, you hope that this has a reflect in the number, in the money that your sponsor gives you as a fee. Also, nowadays, it's entering the TV rights. So the problem for football clubs is the direct monetization strategies. So I am here not just to give answers, but to pose challenges as a club. So doing something in the technology of the club. We can do many things. We can generate data, we can generate number, we can generate impact. The question is, in all these lines that we are generating, how to monetize directly, not indirectly, that is difficult to track. So this is the problem. The problem is the monetization in the different fields, and in this case, when we jump into the metaverse, and the metaverse just with as a digital twin of our club, how to monetize is not trivial, because there you have data collection, you have fan engagement, you have even potentially NFTs, but you face in the metaverse exactly the same problem as you are facing in the real life, in the real universe.
Yeah, because actually the main challenge is consistency and the repeat use of an engagement of that audience. So you mentioned a challenge, and I want to launch this, and maybe Michal can take this question, is that when you talk about the challenges of engaging your people, you have different, let's say, layers to that. So in your stadium, you can host so many people. You can have, so many touch points. But theoretically, and especially in global sports like football and with global brands like Sevilla or any other big club, you have massive global audiences, right? So technology can enable you to actually be able to bridge that gap. If we look at today in the industry, I'm Dominican, so I'm first and foremost a baseball fan. Today, the Major League Baseball will broadcast a game completely 3D, virtual, real-time renderized based on what is happening on the field, right? So this is the first. But in essence, it's a digital twin of Tropicana Field, which is the stadium in Tampa, and how people can engage that. And if I link that to the knowledge that we have of other properties, like the NBA, which we know that is massive, they know for a fact that 99% of their global fan base will never set foot in an arena in the US. So that begs the question, and thus comes the challenge. How digital twins from the engagement and ulterior monetization can help solve that so Elias can go to his CFO and get that authorization?
So there's a few pieces here. First, I think we're so used to thinking in traditional methods or like Web 1, sort of ideas where, banner ads, impressions, likes, those things have become an important value to try to measure the impact or reach of something. But those are very passive or one way. There's no push to a transaction. There's no follow through, right? And even with like a lot of other metaverse, companies I've seen, there's still the idea, hey, let's do banner ads on billboards and we'll track eye tracking and do whatever. But that still doesn't do anything. When you have the ability to get a lot of data about users, user behaviors, things that they do, a digital twin kind of gives you a 3D and interactive environment where you can track like activity, right? And I think that for branding and marketing, if you treat things like branded product placement as opposed to a banner, so instead of me having an advertisement for Dr. Pepper or Coca-Cola or Nike, let me have a 3D shoe I can put on an avatar, and then let me connect that in the real world. Again, this is this bridge between physical and digital where this 3D Nike shoe can be exchanged for a real shoe or can have a discount on one. Or let me not only place it in the digital environment for people to find and collect, but let me use augmented reality and then geolocate that anywhere in the world. So I can have fans in another country engaging with AR mobile content that they can then use to get to a transaction at a local store, buy some merchandise, buy a jersey or buy whatever. And then all these things together, you're now able to say, here's the impression, here's the interaction, the activity that they did, or maybe they didn't like it and they sent it to a friend. That's valuable data. All the way through to an actual transaction, because you're basically storing the value in the 3D object, but in a context that's very interactive, and it's multi-user, it's not a one-way passive thing. So when you do that, then now you can actually prove and validate the ROI in your ad spend that you can't do anywhere else. And because you're tracking all of these behaviors and demographics and everything like that, now you can go back to other brands and other sponsors, whatever, and say, hey, we know people respond this way to this here, to this here. Now we can customize, we can craft more, and kind of take things to the next level in a way that you really can't do in any other type of media. And this is where the concept of digital twin tied back to the real world location suddenly opens up all these opportunities to explore and try, and then that leads us obviously to the fan engagement. Just because you have a digital twin or have a virtual space you're not all the way there. You have to have the interactivity, and you have to have not only ways for a team and a club to engage with fans, but also for fans to engage with each other, which is equally important.
The possibilities of the fan engagement through the digital assets, I will say, they are simply endless, right? When you're having the digital twin, most of the revenue streams usually goes through the match day. So here opens I will say, the possibilities to engage the fans 24/7, 365 days a year through that technology. It's like the Robert said, whenever you have I will say, you simply can double down the fan engagement, at least, right? So even like when you are investing the funds to create the whole ecosystem of it, so the metaverse is simply opening, I would say, the endless possibilities as a fan engagement. But the basement of it is that the clubs, they're supposed to have it ready, working strategy, and they're supposed to know how to develop it, because without the proper education of themselves as a clubs and the flowing with the communication, you cannot create and build a fan engagement, I would say.
Yeah. So from the point of view of the data, this is my main experience as a chief data officer of Sevilla FC, I think that here there are one big advantage in the concept of the metaverse and in the concept of the digital twin. I think the digital twin is mainly in favor because football is not Super Mario Bros. Football is about romanticism, it's about roots, it's about some kind of pattern that, at least in Europe, that your parents were doing it, typically your grandparents were doing it, and in my case, even the father of my grandmother was doing it. So this makes that for people want to live what the real Sevilla FC people or what the physical Sevilla FC people are living. People that typically are a fan in Mexico, Sevilla FC, or in Morocco, for example, that we have a big fan base, they don't want to live some kind of new universe of Sevilla FC that doesn't exist really. If I want to watch Sevilla FC, I want to watch it as real as possible compared to the people that are attending to the Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan today, for example, in Champions League. This is from the cultural point of view, from the human point of view. But from the data, so this, from my point of view, makes sense. But from the point of view of the data, I think that the revolution, given that there is a real economy there in the metaverse, that is the key point, the revolution and the possibility that is open are really huge, because now we are assessing a problem, the data departments in the clubs, and not only in the clubs, in any company, that you have thousands of disconnected data sources. You have to collect it, you have to clean it, you have to unify it as a whole. It is the typical task, the typical dirty task of the data engineers. But if you have a single source of data, that is the metaverse, every guy, you have an ID, every guy, everything that he is doing, you have a well-developed map of events that you can perfectly, after that, convert it into value. And this value and this information, you convert it into information, then in value, and then in actions, link it to business action. So I think that the metaverse with economy, developed economy, for the clubs can be much easier to attack than the physical universe in which things are much more disconnected and gaps are much more often.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, and actually, if we step a little bit more into the operational side, so how to operationalize technology to achieve all that Elias was explaining, and you take a game day for like what it is today, the experience of a stadium or a sports facility, it's not in isolation. So you have people coming into the venue, you have people stressing, traffic around or public transport and so on. And actually, I definitely see some sort of responsibility on big institutions like Sevilla to actually work with the authorities in actually to be able to enhance their experience from the moment you think that you want to go to the game until you get back home. How digital technology and specifically digital twins can help you actually be able to operationalize that better for the fans that are interested in the game, for the people, inhabitants in your surroundings that are not interested in the game, but they know that the game is happening, how you can see an application there that also can have monetization opportunities.
Yeah, I think the first point of difference is basing the experience of the digital twin in the real world as opposed to, say, Decentraland, for example. Again, there's no point of reference to Decentraland. But when you do a real-world digital twin, and you have the framework of to scale, it's to building, and it looks great and all that. You have a fan and outward-facing experience here, but you can use the same data set to plug in other systems, right? Your building management stuff, your security systems, your CCTV, your temperature control, and then you can expand out a bit and start grabbing in other government data and sources. What does the surrounding city look like? What are the crime stats? What are the traffic patterns? What are the climate change effects on tree growth and erosion of soil? What are new construction things that are happening nearby that might affect somebody's view or may have some other impact on whatever? So it goes out in these concentric circles, and each one continues to add value to the initial kind of the digital twin piece. But without that ability to do a digital twin of a whole city beyond just the one thing, or you're just limiting it to we do our little thing next to Snoop Dogg's Weed Palace in Decentraland, you can't have any of all this, and you can't have that real world value and utility. So being able to again start with that real world digital twin and then expand out, you get all of these other benefits. It becomes that single source, as you said, that everything can kind of link into, and then on top of all that, you are really able to tap into history and culture and society and all these things, both for people that live there, that they know it, they feel it, they annotate it, that this is their life. But also for remote people, it's cool if I'm a fan of a team and I'm in some other country and I'm familiar with the stadium, but how many times have you been watching a game where they pull out and they just go downtown for 2 or 3 hours and let you explore before they get back to the game? They can't. But in the case of building out, a city-scale digital twin, you can start layering in all these things and share with a greater global fan base more about, again, the city, the culture, the important places to go and see. And then now you begin to understand the history and the stories of, the team, the club, the buildings, the fans themselves, like all these things. Suddenly, it's just a game changer, I think, and it adds way more value and a bit of a human touch to.
And I think that you
although it's
cannot
digital.
just engage the people who attend the stadium, but all of the other, people who lives in the city during the game. So same like, imagine that you are, let's say, in different cities, sending the avatar, which can, interact with the physical people, during the game, or just you simply going to the virtual museum, and right after, you're just going for a game.
Yeah,
It's creating, I'm sorry, Robert, it's creating the huge opportunity even for a club, for the cities. A lot of the cities, they are, purely connect with the clubs. So it can be pure impact of the tourist impact to the city. Let's imagine that before the Sevilla game, let's say the, I don't know, couple 100,000 of avatars can go and visit the virtual museum and they can spend couple euros for buying the ticket over there, something like that. And then afterwards they can really have a fun engagement for the game. So it's like a mutual synergy between the cities, the stadiums, and like I said, with simply endless possibilities.
So not only does that help you engage with your current fans, but it helps you find new ones, right? And you're not limited to game day or game season. You have a whole entire year where the team, the stadium, the club, the city, the populace can be engaging other people worldwide. And when you kind of approach the tech like we do, because we have some cool, sexy tech, not only can you have remote people experiencing, but all the people that are local, they have all the mobile and the augmented reality stuff, but they can interact with those fans worldwide that are coming into the digital twin, and kind of like a bridge or a crossover. And this, this helps everywhere.
It's like during, I would just simply would love to add in the conclusion, during even the away games, when your club is going, let's say the Sevilla goes to Madrid, you can create some kind of play-to-earn games or whatever, some kind of any other fun engagement in your already working, a digital twin in Sevilla. So it already creates the revenue streams for the clubs and possibilities to engage, get the funds for being, much closer 24/7 with the favorite club.
Apart from the possibilities of just attracting new people that are not local to an environment very close to the city or very close to the club itself, I think that another possibility that is very attached to classical engineering applications is the simulations.
Yes.
The situation is that typically, because first of all, not the identification of the clubs. So a football club is something very complex. There are many different business lines, many different activities. It's like a monster that is not always under control. And as I said before, the data sources are not unified. You don't have data for everything, and when you have it, you don't know how to put it together. The question is that if you have a digital twin of Sevilla FC, for example, and you can simulate different, because you have a stadium that is the stadium of Sevilla FC, you can simulate different scenarios a priori that is important for the club. Mm-hmm. You can carry out a stress test on match days, for example, that are typically not possible for the club because we don't have any kind of entity or digital entity that allow us to put things, for example, to put 45,000 guys that want to enter 5 minutes before the match, what is going to happen, or to have some kind of, what happens if during a match the temperature is plus 50 degrees, are you going to have enough places, you have to open the doors, what happens, no? This is also a possibility in terms of security and facility management, or match day management, that can be positive for the club.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, listening to all three of you and thinking commercially, which is my bread and butter actually, why stop on engaging with the existing fan base and capturing new fans? Why not engaging with the ones that you know that will never be fans? And I'm thinking that if I'm not a fan of Sevilla or a fan of football, but I know that there's a game around the Pizjuan area, and then there's some, I would say, clash with the daily life experience in terms of traffic, there's no parking places, there's whatever. What if Sevilla FC sends me a discount so I can go to a cinema or a restaurant on the other side of the city when they are not stressing the area and just enjoy a meal, a movie, or a concert with a sponsor of theirs that, then they can cater pretty much to everyone in the city.
This is the interesting thing about being able to place or geolocate content, right? Especially, it's kind of like Pokemon Go for brands to a degree. You can take that branded 3D Nike or maybe Starbucks coffee cup, and you can tell people, hey, there's content here, go get it. And then when they get it, you say, you have to go over here to redeem it or use it. So not only do you get more data, but you're now able to kind of divert and control traffic of certain, maybe you want, like you said, non-fans. Well, non-fans, we're having an event over here, here's content here, go over here and do it and enjoy it. And then for other fans, you want over here, here, and here, even down to the granularity of, hey, the vendor down over on the left has run out of hot dogs. The one all the other side has got a whole bunch. So let's let people know, hey guys, there's something, go out there, go get it, and then move traffic that way. So it's a very subtle way to engage people. Again, you're ending up in more transactions still, but now you're able to kind of sway and influence. But the data helps back all that in terms of your customizing and your targeting, what will work, what will get people to move and act and behave. And ultimately, they're having a good time, they're getting discounts, they're saving money, and you're giving them what they want and engaging them. And I think that's one of the big wins here.
But I would love to add as a conclusion that the times are changing right now. We are facing a huge switch from, let's say, for the digital era. So the future behavior of the fans are changing as well. And in my opinion, in the next years, the sports clubs will face a lot of problems, how to attend the new, let's say, generation, the young digital generation, the Z generation, how to attend them, let's say, to be much closer with the fans or even go for the live games. I think that the digital twin, it's some kind of solution. I know for myself that the best experience is go for the live game, but for the future generation, they expect more. They expect that the club would involve much more with the changing times. So I think that is a good time for the clubs just to simply, be involved in this kind of technology and simply discover it, how to build it the next future generation or the next digital fans. That's what
I think that I completely agree. So first of all, you access more people in time and in space, because you can access people in Indonesia at the same time that you access a generation that you don't typically could access maybe for the traditional means, given that there is always economy, that is the most important. But from the point of view of technology and even science, so it is very interesting for me, because it allows you to do many things in the sense that you can describe, as we have spoken, in a very much detail, in a complete scenario. You can predict. If you can describe, you can predict. And as you said before, because you can see what is happening, you know the prediction, but you can impact on this virtual world, controlling things.
Absolutely.
So you make a kind of the dream of the engineers, description, prediction, controlling, you can make it real.
Yeah.
And this, from the technological point of view, can be a really important thing.
Absolutely.
One last point. If there's ever another pandemic, digital twins are going to be very, very, very important.
And I encourage you guys to go see in the Sun area, Transmira and Sidley, and get to know more about it. We are up, so thank you for listening and engaging with us. And thank you, Elias, Robert, and Michael.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.